Okay, I'm actually going to start round 2. I'm going to do a second live tonight. And the reason I'm doing this, just to let folks know, is that I'm working through ECAMM, and I'm working... Oh. I'm working through ECAMM, and I'm also working through Restream, and I'm trying to make a decision once again on which one of these to choose, which one of these to go with. So I'm doing the second part now on ECAMM, which I've always liked ECAMM, and I like ECAMM. It's like an OBS kind of setup for Macs where you've got everything at your fingertips as opposed to having to go in and know a whole lot about video and a whole lot about audio and the settings and hertz and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to know that with this. So I like that. So I'm going to work through, just like I did before, just a couple of problems. I'm going to work through with ECAMM, and I apologize for my dog in the background. Every time I start streaming, she starts barking. If I'm out there, she's fine. If I'm in here, she's barking at crazy mess. Just to let you know. So I'm going to work right now through a couple of problems. So let's get started. We are working with normal curves in class. We have a test coming up this next Wednesday on normal curves. So I'm just going to work through a few computational problems here. We're going to be using the standard normal table to find the answers to these problems, and we're also going to be working with the calculator. Let's start off with the context of men's cholesterol. Men's cholesterol typically is normally distributed with a mean of 209 and a standard deviation of 37.8. We want to know that if we randomly select one set of cholesterol readings from one individual, what's the probability that it will fall between 220 and 255? Well, we don't have a table for every different scenario: cholesterol, blood pressure, weight, those kind of things. So we have to push everything to a standard normal. So these numbers, this 220, this 255, are what we're working with from the data, but we have to take these and determine what the z-score is, that measure of distance from the mean, where 220 lies outside of that mean, 255 lies outside of that mean on this particular curve. So let's do that. So we're going to find the z-score. We're going to use the formula that we've derived in class, the one that we've been working with for quite a while. So I'm going to go, let's go blue. I'm going to go z equals x subtract mu divided by the standard deviation. I'm given all of that information right here, and I'm given the first x value that we're going to work with, which is 220. So I want to find the z-score that corresponds to that 220. I take 220, subtract 209. I divide it by 37.8. So I'm going to try to get an exact answer here. 220 subtract 209. Whoops. 220. Oh my goodness. 220 subtract 209. And then I divide by 37.8. And I get 0.29. Let's go with 0.29. So I get 0.29. So the z-score that relates to that data value of 220 on this normal distribution is 0.29. Now I'm going to erase off this first set of data, and I'm going to work with the second one here, which is 255. So I've got 255, subtract the mean of 209, subtract that 37.8, which is the standard deviation, and I'll get the second z-score that I need in order to find the area between these two points. 255 subtract 209 equals, divided by 37.8 gives me 1.22. So I get 1.22 here, and now I can erase all this off. And I'm going a tad quicker here. I'm going to upload this to the Moodle for my class as well, but I've already worked through two types of problems. I'm just using a different medium now to go through my numbers. Okay. I can actually get this out of here as well. We don't need that anymore. And now I'm going to rewrite it as an expression of the probability. So in other words, I'm going to say, what is the probability that the z-score will fall between 0.29 and 1.22? Okay? The way I'm going to work this is I'm going to use the table first. So I'm going to, I'm going to find the area from here all the way to, oh, that's a terrible, stand by. Let's go red. From here all the way to negative infinity. and I'm going to find the area from here all the way to negative infinity. And the difference is going to be what's left right here, which is all of this area that we need that relates to the probability. So let's go to our table, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to find to the left of 0.29 and to the left of 1.22. Okay. Here's my table. I'm on the positive side of my table on this two-sided sheet, and I'm looking at 0.29. So I've got 0.2 there, and I've got 0.6149. So in other words, to the left, all the way to negative infinity from 0.29, the area underneath the curve is about 61%. So it's 0.61409. Okay. Now I'm going to find to the left of, that was 0.29, yes. Now I'm going to find 1.22. So I've got 1.2 here, and 1.22 would be there. So it would be 0.88877. I need to find the difference. So I take that longest one, subtract the shortest one. What's left is going to be the area in between those two z-scores. So here we are. So I take that 0.88877 and I subtract 0.61409. 0.61409, and I get 27468. 0.27468. That is my area between 220 and 255. Now I'm going to double check this on the calculator. So in order to do that, I'm going to erase off all of this that I worked with down here. I didn't mean to take off the 75, but it's okay. And now I'm just going to give you the syntax for the calculator. So the syntax is second vars. That gives us the second function of the vars key. That's going to be distribution. So we scroll down one, select normal CDF. My handwriting seems to be getting worse. And my syntax that I use in class is just go from the farthest left z-score, read left to right, farthest left z-score to the farthest right, and the calculator will tell you the area in between those two. In the case of our example right here, I'm going to put 0.29, comma 1.22. And the calculator will find the area between those. So I'm going to scroll over to my calculator. Let me hit clear. And I'm going to go just like I walked through on here. Second, vars. Scroll down to normal CDF. And I went 0.29, comma 1.22. Voila, 0.27467. 0.27467. That's what I got with the calculator. So now I scroll back over here. Now, you also could have rounded that. So the only discrepancy here is the same that I had with my previous stream. Not a huge discrepancy. It has to do with rounding and the fact that we're using a table with locked in fixed 5-digit values, decimal digit values. And then I'm going to the calculator, which is giving me many more. So it's still the same, 27468, 27467, or 268 if I had rounded it. So we're good. This is exactly what I needed. So I have solved this problem. I have found the area between that 220 and that 2, there it is. From here to here, I found the area between those two. I didn't have a curve to work with there. It was a regular normal curve. I transferred those numbers, 220 to 0.29, that's the z value, 255 to 1.2 z value, and voila. I worked with the table, and then I also worked with the calculator. By the way, if any of my students come on at this time, by all means, let me know you're here. Same applies, 7 points. Got to ask a question and post it to the comments. No problem, because I'm just actually doing a second round here with ECAMM. All right. Second problem of the second stream of the night, and this will be the last one that I do for tonight. I'm going to walk through and do the exact same thing. So with women's cholesterol, the mean is 197. The standard deviation is 37.7. So that's what we have gathered over the years. That's what we know. What is the probability that if we reach in that population and pull out one woman at random, that her cholesterol is going to fall between 190 and 215. So what's the probability between these two which relates to the area between those two on the normal curve. Well, we don't work with just this distribution. We work with the z-scores. So I have to transfer the 190 to a z-score and the 215 to a z-score. And the way I do that, once again, is to say x minus mu divided by sigma. We derived this early in class, and we've worked with this quite a bit. So I need to find the z-score for this one and the z-score for this one. For the 190, I'm going to have 190 subtract 197 divided by 37.7. And for the 215, I'll just put it over here. 215 subtract 197 divided by 37.7. So I'll just skip a step of erasing and going back there. So I've got 190 subtract 197 divided by 37.7. And I get 0.19, negative 0.19, I'm sorry. Negative 0.19. That's the z-score that correlates to the 190. In other words, they're the same. One's a measure of distance and one's the actual data value. Now look at the second one, 215 subtract 37.7 and divide by, oh, I'm sorry, I actually did that wrong. 215 subtract 197 and then divide by 37.7. 0.48. Alright, so I'm going to erase off my scratch work here that I was working with the formula. And now what I'm going to look at is the area from here all the way to negative infinity, the area from here all the way to negative infinity. Oops, I'll use purple. So I'm looking for the area from here all the way here, the area from here all the way to here, in other words, to negative infinity. And then when I subtract, when I take this and subtract off this, then I'm left with this, which is the area between the two, which is what we need. So I'm looking at my two numbers, which is negative 0.19, enter, and 0.48. I'm just putting them in the calculator where I can see them easily. So I'm going to scroll out of here now to, whoops, we'll come to the calculator in a second. Now we're on the negative and the positive side of our standard normal table. So let's go with the positive side first. So we're already here. So 0.48. So I've got 0.4 right there. The 8 is right there. So I've got 68439. Oops. 0.68439. And now I'm going to go to my negative side and look for negative 0.19. Negative 0.19, yep. So negative 0.1 is right here. And then the 9 is that last column right here. So negative 0.19. 42,465. Okay. Got my numbers that I need. I've used my table. Now I'll go back to my drawing and I subtract the two. So I've got clear. I've got 0.68439 and I subtract out 0.42465 and I get 25974. So 0.25974 is what I'm saying is the answer. And now I'm going to transfer over to the calculator. I'm going to work it out there and compare the two answers. Just make sure that what I did was correct. And I'll leave that other stuff right there. So let's go to the calculator. And I will go clear. I will go second, vars, scroll down to normal CDF. I'm going to go from the leftmost, we read left to right. I'm going to go from the leftmost z-score to the rightmost z-score and close the parenthesis to find the area between the two. My leftmost is negative 0.19, and then comma, and my rightmost is 0.48. 259,731. Whoops. 259,731. Okay. Now I'm done with the calculator. I scroll back over to my picture. Good enough for government work for tonight. So remember we have a table of fixed values out to 5 decimal places that we're working with a standard normal table. So that's going to give us some 25974 bam number. On the flip side, the calculator is working with more numbers than that. So if I look at that and I round, or if I go back to those and I round or work with some semblance of that, I'll get much closer. But I'm okay with this. 25973, 25974. I feel okay with that. So that's all I'm doing in tonight's second round of streams. I appreciate anybody that came on. I'm comparing my ECAMM to my Restream, and I'm also comparing some AI clips. AI is starting to rate them a little bit, and I'm curious what the feedback is coming through Restream from ECAMM as opposed to just streaming from Restream. So this concludes this second piece, and I thank anybody that stopped by and anybody that sees this video on demand. I appreciate that too. If you get a chance to subscribe to the channel or leave a comment, just let me know what you think. If there's ways to improve this, I want to make this the best online office hours for my classes that I can. And for my class folks, I am shocked that nobody showed up for 7 extra points tonight towards the test category or the quizzes. You still have one more chance to do it, which will be next Tuesday. So that's all I've got. I appreciate those that have stopped by, and have a good, tomorrow's Friday, have a good Friday. Thank you.